All right. I want to revisit our Freestyle Friday. This is a drawing that Jacob did, and he did these flower-looking things by doing a circle and then rotating 60 degrees and doing that 6 times. And then Tracy moves and does another flower, and then Tracy moves and does another flower. And um, this works pretty well. And Jacob even used a for loop to make his code a little bit shorter. Um, so that's really, really nice. But let's use a new tool to make this even cleaner. There's a rule in code. You really want to keep your code dry, meaning don't repeat yourself. So whenever I say keep your code dry, that's an acronym for don't repeat yourself. If you find yourself repeating yourself, you really should use the tools that we have to keep yourself from doing that. Now, Jacob didn't have the tool that we're about to use. Okay, so no faulting Jacob on this one. I wanted to show you how we can use functions to clean up this code, make it easier to read, make it easier to maintain. So in this code, every once in a while, um, Jacob does this. He puts pin down and does 6 circles and then pin up. Pin down, 6 circles, pin up. He keeps repeating this pattern over and over and over. And what Jacob probably did is he probably copied and pasted, which is fine. And he couldn't use a for loop because he was doing different things in between. But what we're going to do is we're going to make a new function called flower. And flower is going to do this thing that we keep doing. So this pin down, 6 circles, pin up, we're going to make that all a, so grab all that and tab it over. We're going to make that all a function. We're making a new command called flower, and it does all of this. So I'm going to take all of this and I'm going to replace it with flower. I'm going to take all of this, I'm going to replace it with flower. Look at that code. And you might be going, wait, is it even going to work? It does the same exact thing that his code did before. All it's doing is anywhere that we had this, we just replace it with flower. And this is going to be so much easier to read. And also, it's going to be easier to change. Let's say I don't want 50. Let's say I want 75. I'm going to increase the speed a little bit. So now, instead of having to rewrite the whole thing, I just made a little bitty change in my flower, and now everything looks different. I can set my circle to 5. Okay, I can make all of these changes just like that because I've defined it as a function instead of copying and pasting it a bunch of times through my code. So it's a lot cleaner. Okay, let's look at this again in Joel's code. Okay, again, Joel does kind of this design with 5 circles, which is cool. But again, you're going to see a lot of repetition here. You keep seeing this pin down, make 5 circles, pin up. and then forward 50. Pen down, draw my 5 circles, pen up, forward 50. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to define a method called 5 circles, which is this code that I keep repeating. Make sure you tab it over. And then I'm going to take all this junk right here and I'm going to replace it with 5 circles. Replace all this with 5 circles. Replace all this with 5 circles. Then 5 circles. All right, so you see that's cleaned up our code a ton. But also, we're doing 5 circles forward 50, 5 circles forward 50. We're repeating the same thing over and over. So we're still repeating ourselves. So I'm going to say for I in range 1, 2, 3, 4 times, I'm going to do 5 circles forward 50. And I've done the same thing that Joel did, but I'm doing it in 16 lines of code instead of um, a bunch of code. And it's a lot more readable again. And again, let's say I want to change this. Speed this up a little bit. Okay, so I'm making this little tweak to the design, but I don't have to change everything. I don't have to change it all over the place. I can change it just one time. So that's the power of using functions and for loops to keep your code dry. Okay, don't repeat yourself. Use the power of these loops and these functions to make your code easier to read and easier to modify. Thanks for listening.